Hello. So, I just got out of my anthropology class and, I felt like I needed to make this video because it's just racing around in my head. We talked about identity, and one of the sections in the identity chapter was fat talk, which is basically where people are like, oh, I'm so fat, and they do it for attention. And they also mentioned how different societies and different ethnic groups will have a different view of beauty standards and just expectations, and the expectations could be on how you act, dress, look, talk, speak and talk are basically the same thing, so, but yeah, someone in the class brought up eating disorders, and the teacher asked, what do you think, he asked the class, what do you think, encourages them? Do you really think it's a psychological disorder? And I spoke up, which I normally don't do, and I said, well, it depends on, like, where you're raised. And whenever I was in treatment, there were some guys in treatment with me. He asked, you don't hear about many guys with eating disorders, so what's the deal? And I was like, well, guys are supposed to be seen as tough, but as a provider for their family. So, a very, eating disorder thing to do is to be obsessed with food, so you will make food for other people, but you don't feel like you deserve it, or you don't look like how someone is supposed to look like through the beauty standards, so you aren't going to partake in what you have made because you're not like the standard or expectation yet, and you may never be, but you are going to try your best to be. The teacher, he's an older guy. He looks like Colonel Sanders, which is funny and cool. Whenever I spoke up and said, I went to treatment with 2 or 3 guys, he looked at me and he was like, treatment for anorexia? Yeah? Oh. Well, thank you for speaking up about it. And then he asked if I would mind talking about what influenced me. And I said it was mostly a coping skill. That's what the treatment team kept telling us, was it's a coping skill. And to cope with negative feelings, we found that we could numb the pain from food, either with eating too much or throwing it up, or just not eating it. We would feel in control from it. I also said it was a part of how I was raised, because my family didn't really have dinner on a regular basis. Me and my brother just relied on school for food. And I don't mean that in like a horrible bash my parents way. It's like, I understand they didn't have the time or energy to make dinner on a regular basis, and also food is expensive. And yeah, I was a picky eater. Another thing I said was there was a lot of social influence. Like, whenever I was thin, I didn't get bullied. I was never not thin, but I saw that people who were not thin get bullied quite a bit, and I used to bully my cousins who were not thin a little bit when I was younger, because I thought that's just what you were supposed to do. And I'm sorry, I'm in a weird mood. So I told myself I wouldn't be bullied, because I wouldn't have the weight on me. But I also noticed that everyone that was famous, or mostly everyone that was famous, was thin. And it was a good thing, like a very positive thing, for people to lose weight. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make people proud of me. And in order to be successful, I'm not gonna eat. Saying these things, I see so many contradictions pop up, but I mean, that was what I would think, and it was illogical, as long as it didn't have numbers in it. Like, if it had numbers, that was basically my whole focus, was numbers. And I believed that success and beauty was in a number. I believed that the number you spent on something was also success and beauty. The number of things you ate, the number of calories you ate. By things, I mean like individual things. Like, for a while I only had myself eating 3 items a day, at most, and that was not good at all. I talked about how whenever I was growing up, that the thigh gap and the flat stomach became really big things. Like, you know what I mean. It got really popular, and basically, if you don't have this, then you're not an attractive female. And I wanted to be liked, and I wanted to look like that, and I wanted to be successful, and I just wanted all of these things, but I was again very convinced that all of this was based on a number. I was actually really good at math whenever I was sick, and that's something that I feel is a missing part, because I don't do math very often anymore, and I don't want to do math in fear of it, like, in fear of embarrassing myself, or the anorexia coming back into my life because of the numbers. There's a lot of thoughts going through my head right now, and they're all trying to come out at once. Yeah. So, culture. The way you're raised, the way people view things, it's all how you view yourself. If you're not raised in a place where body image is a significant thing, you're not going to really worry about it. Like my teacher said, if you're raised in Samoa or whatever country he was talking about, like, they don't have these type of problems because they are taught, like, as long as you can do hunting and gathering, have children, raise children, blah 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 blah, and not die, you're doing good. But they're also taught that as adolescents, it's their time to explore sexual encounters and stuff like that. Whereas it's very taboo here. In my health class before anthropology, we were talking about addiction. And in a lot of countries, addictions are mainly to taboo things, like alcohol and drugs. Like, cigarettes isn't that taboo anymore, but there's still a lot of people addicted to it. But if you're not raised knowing that it's okay to explore and... Okay, I'm not saying that you should go out and try drugs, and I'm not saying that it's wrong if someone has that opinion, but I'm just saying, if you grow up thinking that something is wrong and you try it and it makes you feel good, you don't see the wrong in it. And there's the craving to keep going back for it because you don't see the wrong, but you can't tell anybody about it. So it's a secret. And it just keeps repeating. So, yeah, those are just some of the things I wanted to talk about in this video because my brain just kept looping on this and I was like, I gotta make a video. Gotta. Okay. Bye, guys!